Tennessee football was number 11 in the college football playoff rankings last week. Because of the 2 auto bids, they were 1 spot out. Over the weekend, 3 teams ahead of them lost. Indiana, Alabama, Ole Miss. Alabama and Ole Miss both have 1 more loss than Tennessee now, so it's very clear that Tennessee is going to move up 2 spots in the college football playoff ranking at the minimum. They will move up to at least number 9. The question is if Indiana will drop below them, at which point they would move up to number 8. Now, because of the auto bids below them from conference champions and one of those auto bids having to get a top 4 seed, whatever seed Tennessee is, you have to drop them 1 spot. So if they get the number 9 seed, if they're number 9 in the playoff, they would have the number 10 seed. If they're number 8 in the playoff, they would have the number 9 seed. But that opens the door for them to now have a home playoff game because they're going to be no more than 2 spots away from a home playoff game. Because remember, you get the 8 seed, you get a home game. How can Tennessee get a home playoff game? If Texas loses to Texas A&M this week, Tennessee's probably getting a home playoff game, guys. Tennessee will finish ahead of Texas. They'll deserve to be ahead of Texas. Texas A&M, funny enough, I think will still go play for the SEC title if I'm not mistaken, and they wouldn't even go to the playoff. So if Tennessee loses to if Texas loses to Texas A&M, highly possible Tennessee's moving ahead of them. Don't sleep on the idea that Notre Dame could lose to USC. If Notre Dame loses to USC, Tennessee can move ahead of them. Now, if Tennessee leapfrogs Indiana, they only have to move ahead of one of those teams to get a home playoff game. But if they don't leapfrog Indiana, then yes, they would need both Notre Dame and Texas to lose. But both is on the table. Now, to a lesser degree, again, is Tennessee potentially just staying ahead of Indiana? So only one of them they have to move ahead of. Indiana maybe losing to Purdue. Potentially Ohio State losing to Michigan, who has played better as of recent. Now, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, I think there's still a strong argument for Ohio State to be ahead of Tennessee, guys. Sorry, I know, but look, Ohio State did beat number 3 Penn State on the road. That's Penn State's only loss, and they did beat number 5 Indiana. That's Indiana's only loss. So they have 2 quality wins, and they have a better loss against Oregon, who's the number 1 team in the nation. So by all resumes, Ohio State's going to stay ahead of Tennessee if they finish 10-2. The other option is Penn State. But again, they would have to lose to Maryland, who's been awful this year. Penn State had Penn State lost to Minnesota, we would really be talking about Tennessee home playoff game this year. Instead, Tennessee has to hope for basically Texas and Notre Dame to lose. Those are the 2 most realistic options for Tennessee. But here's the question, and it's an interesting one. What would you rather see for Tennessee in the college football playoff? And I'm putting this question up right now. A home playoff game or a lower seed but an easier road? And here's why I asked the question that way. Does Tennessee want a home playoff game? And here's why I asked that question. If Tennessee gets the home playoff game, it'll be no higher than the 8 or the 7 seed. Okay, like I just told you, they're not moving ahead of Ohio State. Penn State's not losing to Maryland. So Tennessee's not going to get up to the 6 or 5 seed. If they are the 8 or the 7 seed, well, then they will either play the 2 or the 1 seed in the second round. Not only that, in the first round, they'll play the 9 or the 10 seed, who could end up being a very good SEC or Big Ten team. If they get that home playoff game, you're looking at either playing Oregon or, in the case I'm talking about, probably Georgia in the second round of the college football playoff. Yes, Oregon or Georgia. Right now, they're probably looking at the 10 seed most realistically. But if they fall to the 11 seed, which is possible depending on how things work in conference title week and everything like that, they would get the ACC champion in the second round, and they would probably face Notre Dame in the first round. Or if Notre Dame loses to Penn State, who many of us think is not that good. Guys, are we sure Tennessee wants a home playoff game with that? Or would they rather get the easier road? It's a debate. But I will tell you in a second why, bank on it, Tennessee wants a home playoff game, and that would give them the easier road. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, bank on it. Tennessee wants a home playoff game. And I laid it out all in a column that you can read online right now. But the biggest reason Tennessee wants a home playoff game is this. Tennessee, there are way too many tricky paths to get the draw they want, regardless of where they are in the playoff. And if they get a home playoff game, in all likelihood, they would do it as the 8th seed and possibly play the 9th seed Indiana Hoosiers. All right, so let's look at the teams that would likely be below Tennessee in the college football playoff if they got a home playoff game, if they got the 8th seed, okay? You're talking right now probably Indiana or SMU. I mean, guys, if they're the 8th seed and Indiana or SMU is the 9th seed, how do you not want the home playoff game in that moment? Obviously you do. I mean, that's an easy home win for you if you're Tennessee. To break down what the playoff would look like right now, basically Oregon, Texas, let's just throw Texas out there, and Miami and Boise State would get first-round byes. Arizona State would be the 12th seed, the last seed in, and then Ohio State would be the 5th seed, which is the magic number. Penn State, the 6th seed. Notre Dame, the 7th seed. Georgia, the 8th seed. If you just go by what the AP poll and coaches poll do to guesstimate what the college football playoff is going to do, Tennessee, the 9th seed, or the 10th seed, Miami, the 9th seed or the 10th seed, SMU, the 11th seed, and Indiana actually could be the odd man. Sorry, let me recalculate that. Oregon as the 1 seed, Texas as the 2 seed, Miami as the 3 seed, and Boise State as the 4 seed. Okay. After that, you have Ohio State as the 5 seed, Penn State the 6 seed, Notre Dame the 7 seed, Georgia the 8 seed, Tennessee the 9 or the 10 seed, Miami the 9 or the 10 seed, SMU the 11th seed, and in this moment, Arizona State the 12th seed, Indiana would be the first team out if the college football playoff goes based on the poll rankings, which we'll talk about tomorrow. The point being, we don't know how this is all going to shake out. But if Tennessee were to move up to get that home game, Miami would obviously easily get the first round bye. So, or the winner of Miami SMU, which we all think is going to be Miami, assuming both of those teams keep winning. At which point Tennessee would play SMU or maybe Indiana at home, guys. That's the first round game. So getting a home playoff game probably means a very easy first round game, which honestly makes it worthwhile to play the tougher second round matchup, particularly when you don't know who the toughest matchup is going to be in the second round. I mean, if you get the 10 seed, if you want the 11 seed to have to face a 3 or 4, there's an off chance Georgia gets the 3 seed. And if you get the 10 seed, which you're looking at now, there's an off chance Georgia's the 2 seed. Wouldn't you rather play Oregon than Georgia, even though Georgia has 2 losses? I think you would. So that's why I do think you do want the home playoff game, but not because it's at home, but because if you get the home playoff game, you're probably going to play a very easy team in the first round. Derek says OSU getting all the favoritism. Imagine that. Derek, I'm sorry, but I think Ohio State they have the best resume of any one-loss team. I mean, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame. Who are you going to rank ahead of that? Who are you going to rank ahead of Ohio State? Ohio State has, to their credit, played the other 3 contenders in the Big Ten, Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon. Their only loss is to undefeated Oregon in a very close game. And they beat Penn State on the road and Indiana at home. I mean, you got to give Ohio State credit. Now, did they play a week out of conference schedule? Yes. But unlike Indiana, they shouldn't be punished for that because they actually played other elite teams in conference. So I'm sorry. Ohio State definitely has the best resume of one-loss teams. They deserve to be the 5 seed in the playoff. They should be the 2 seed or the 3 seed in the playoff. I mean, I'm sorry. They should be the 2 seed in the playoff. They should. They deserve to be number 2. But this system is incentivizing the worse things. But the long story short of this, the short end of this is, yes, Tennessee wants a home playoff game. Think it. I mean, there's just no debate of that. And I think that if Tennessee doesn't get a home playoff game, there could be some more issues with that. I think that Tennessee, let's envision the scenario. Let's say all chalk happens the rest of the way. It just seems likely that in that moment, Tennessee would get the 9 or the 8 seed. And if they would face Indiana or SMU or somebody like that. Now, look, people are laughing and calling it crazy. There's still an outside chance Alabama gets into the playoff, by the way. The same with South Carolina. South Carolina could get in. Ole Miss could get in. Some of these 3-loss SEC teams aren't out of it yet. And more importantly, some of these group of 5 teams, Boise State seems like the favorite, but don't sleep on Tulane. Don't sleep on Memphis playing Tulane this week. Army still should be in it. They lost to Notre Dame. Okay, and Army does play Navy, so they could get another quality win. So, and I think they're going to play. I mean, they could end up playing Navy twice. You guys quote me on that, or is that over? I don't think Army and Navy can play twice now. I think the American is going to come down to possibly Tulane or Memphis. But yeah, it's good. Tulane and Army look like they're in line to play for the AAC championship no matter what. Now they're both 7-0. The others have 2 losses. So that's it. Now the Big 12 pretty much ended any chance at 2 teams, with Arizona State beating BYU and Colorado getting blown out by Kansas. It's going to come down to Arizona State and BYU and the winner of that game. There's no way anybody else from the Big 12 is getting in, and they're going to be the most lowly rated team of the group of 5 team of the conference champion auto bids and have the lowest seed. But again, to the point at hand, yes, Tennessee wants Tennessee wants a home playoff game because there's no signs at this point that they're going to have an easier road without the home playoff game. So get the home playoff game. Because one, the biggest focus is the easier road, but all things being equal, home playoff game in December is huge, not just for Tennessee and not just for their brand, but for the college football playoff, a game at Neyland Stadium. You can bring recruits to that, okay? That would be the most lit thing that we have ever seen in college football, guys. Tennessee with a home playoff game. And if Tennessee is able to host Indiana for that, where they could blow them out, that would just be the dream. Of course, they could end up hosting a much better team. What if they host Miami or something like that? I don't think they will, because Miami would have to win the ACC or drop out of the top 12. That's what I think is going to happen. But at the end of the day, Tennessee, yes, they want to get a home playoff game. I think that is their best path forward to trying to advance in the playoff. I'll tell you what, though, the funny thing is, I don't know if you guys know this, Georgia's not happy about Texas A&M's loss to Auburn last week, because Georgia now pretty much is automatically going into the SEC title game, and they don't want to go. They don't want to go. I keep telling you guys this. I don't know if it's going to happen, but somebody is going to potentially throw the SEC title. The only reason Georgia can't is because the committee, who trusts the committee when they say they won't factor in conference title games? I don't, but they shouldn't. So you don't want to give out the vibe that you're throwing it. But again, you can do it like Rick Barnes did in the SEC basketball tournament last year and just say jack up threes. If they hit, they do. If they don't, they don't. So what do I think the college football playoff scenario, the best case scenario for Tennessee at this point is? I take the home game to go face Oregon. I take the home game to go face Oregon. I think the path to face the 3 or 4 seed, which would be the ACC or Big 12 champion, is at this point too great, because to do that, Tennessee would have to be the 5, 6, 11, or 12. Tennessee's not going to drop to the 11 or 12 unless they lose a game, and you don't want to see that from them. And they're not going to move up to the 5 or 6 unless some crazy upsets happen. So that's not going to happen. So the goal is to get into that 8 spot, because they're going to be in the 10-7 range, and at which point they'll play one of the top 2 teams, which will be the SEC or the Big 10 champion. And again, I'd rather play Oregon than Georgia. I'd rather play Oregon on a neutral field than Georgia. People can call me crazy on that, but I think Georgia is a better team. I think Georgia would win easily in a matchup on a neutral field. I think Vegas would favor Georgia. So when you take that into account, I don't think there's any way you could possibly say that Tennessee, I don't think there's any possible way that you could honestly think that Tennessee shouldn't want to get a home playoff game. I think that's the best way to do it. Now, the poll question, most of you guys agree with me. 96% say you would rather a home playoff game, and only 4% say a lower seed with easier foes. Yeah, I'm probably with you guys on that. I wouldn't have been for a while, but I probably am now.